All right. Hello. So this is our seventh lesson in algebra, and in this lesson, we are going to our topic is the use of electronic calculators. So we all know that a calculator is very useful in our daily lives, especially if you have like a store or something like you're a cashier that needs to um needs to have the change. These are also can be used on accountants so that they can compute, they can add together those those taxes, they can remove, like, I don't know, anything like that. So you know, calculators, especially on math, that's mostly math. Engineering, we also have like what we call the scientific calculators now. So yeah, so that are the uses of a calculator. Okay. So before we go into that, let's talk about our last topic. So our last topic is on how to round numbers. So when we are going to round numbers, the end place, let's say on one decimal place, that's the end. So the left of the first decimal, if it's below 5, it is left as it is. If it's above 5, it is taken up by one digit, like for example here, 362.5863. So if we're gonna round that in three decimal places, it's gonna be left as 6, because on the third decimal place, the number beside that is below 5. And on our second example, we have two decimal places, since 8 beside 8 is 6, and that's above 5, is we're gonna add 8 plus 1. So the rounded estimation on that is 362.59. And we also talk about rounding on a significant figures. If you want to check that out, just check our sixth lesson. And yeah, and we always need to round numbers to give an an approximate value. So yeah, so here we go. Okay, um here we have bond mass. So we talked about this last time. We have the bond mass, that's the bracket, division, multiplication, addition, and subtraction. So when working on a calculator, the student must need to work on the instruction manual for the particular calculator being used. So, one example of this is like when you have like those calculator, like the like those big calculators that like one line calculator. So it doesn't go into mod mass. So like take care must be taken to remember the mod mass rule. So here I have an example here, like for example, 7 plus 3 times 8. So when we gonna plug that on like a one line calculator, like if you go add 7 plus 3, it becomes 10, right? Then you multiply by 8, that's gonna be 80. But we know that bod mass, as we said tackled last lesson, bod mass needs to do multiplication first, after bef- multiplication first, then addition next. So 80 is not the correct answer. So the answer must be 31, right? So if you're gonna plug that on like a one line calculator, like calculators that you man use mostly on the stores, it's gonna give you 80. But if you're gonna plug this on a scientific calculator, it will give you 31. So it's best to plug all of that on a scientific calculator to get the correct answer. If you're gonna do a one-line calculator, you're gonna write that first and work out on the multiplication first, and it will give you the correct answer. Okay, so yeah, that's an example. So if some scientific calculators work from left to right, so you must really need to click. You must really need to check the instruction manual of your calculator. Like another example here. So 6 divided by 2 minus 1. So if we're gonna work on that left to right, it will give you 2. Like 6 divided by 2, that will give you. But remember that we have a bracket here. So we must prioritize first the bracket, right? So the answer must be 6, not 2. So here I have example of a calculator. So a calculator has useful numerical functions, like we have the square root of x, the x squared, the x raised to a certain number, and x raised to 1 over y, or what we have called the negatives. Yeah, we need these too, because if we're going to work with big numbers, we can't really solve it. It's gonna be a tedious process, a long process, and that's why calculators are now in use. So what we have here is what we call the shift control. So some calculators call the shift control second f, or the second function. So let's zoom in. Uh, let's zoom in on this like here. So you can see this shift function here. How do I do this? Like we can see the shift function here. I can't really zoom in because it will give me multiple multiple places. If you're gonna click this shift function, it will give you these functions on the top, right? Functions of the top, because these functions are very very useful. Like for example here, it will give you like a mixed fraction. Here you can factor them into prime numbers. Here you can get the inverse of sine, the inverse of cosine. Here we have e raised to a certain number, and when I click shift and this button, it will give you factorial. And we have also more here. If you're gonna click shift then 0, it will give you like a random, here a random number. And if you're gonna click shift and this button, the exponential, it will give you pi. And if you're gonna click shift, you can change the calculator's mode in either degree or radians. And you can have permutations when you're gonna click shift and this button. You can also get combination, and you can turn off your calculator by clicking shift, or edit this button AC, or it will turn off your computer. So there are many functions, and the symbols on the yellow will give you these functions if you're going to click shift. And we also have what we call the alpha, but remember that don't click alpha it will turn you into an alpha wolf. Okay, that's a really, really bad joke. But, anyways, back to our topic. If we're going to click alpha, it will give you these letters on the top. It will give you A, B, C, D, E, F, Y, M. So these you can store your calculator's memory. Like A, it will give you a certain number, like let's say 25. If you're gonna click alpha A and then equals, it will give you 25 on as an answer. If you're gonna have A plus 4, it will give you 29 since A is 25 and you're gonna add 4 in that, it will give you 25. And yeah, so that's what an alpha does. And yeah, like here we have more examples. Square root of 173, you can't really get that by hand, so it will give you 1.153. If you're gonna square it, it will give you 29229. If you're gonna cube root 23, it will give you 12,167. And if you have that function, so you can get that function with this, using this function, or this function, then use this. So yeah, calculators are really, really useful. So next topic is the calculator's memory. So it is very essential, and like this, like we have this topic, so we need to store each of the four terms in the calculation positively or negatively, and then recall their total sum in the end. So this is very useful, but if you have like a scientific calculator, you can like plug all of that and it will give you like the correct answer. But if you, I will teach you how to store. So let's go back on our calculator. Um, if we are going to have alpha, and let's say we're gonna plug in um let's go back like this, 1.4 cube. You're gonna have 1.4 cube. You can get, so you're gonna have 1.4, and we have the cube here, and you can click equals and then shift, then since store means storage, so you're gonna click on that and you can store into different set of memory here, A, B, C, D, E, or F. So yeah, so that's what a calculator can do. So yeah, so calculator has many uses. It can store, it can add, and it can do anything, you know. I actually have the same calculator here, so I can't really show them it to the camera because yeah. So let's say 65 here, and we're gonna click store. Store. Yeah. And yeah. So yeah, that's it. So if you understand this topic, just leave a like, and thanks for your time.